Shalom, and welcome to What the Watchman Sees, a ministry that will sift through all of the social media noise to show you news of importance from the Most High's perspective. As watchmen, we are here both to warn of dangers and give biblical answers for dwelling in the secret place of the Most High during these times of confusion. Tell your family and friends to like, share, and subscribe as we delve into what Yahweh has for us, the apple of His eye. Let's get to work. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're going to continue with our Shabbat meditation, dealing with the overall theme for this year of love. And so we're going to continue looking at love from the scriptures perspective, which includes love from heaven's perspective, as well as love from the perspective of those of us who are on the receiving end of heaven's love for us, because our first commandment is that we love the Most High with all of our heart, soul, and might. So as we continue with understanding what that means, we have to look at the source of that love so that we can better understand what our responsibilities are, which means that we have to look at what heaven has already done. So we're going to actually open the scripture and look at Revelation, starting at chapter 5, and I'll explain how that is being looked at when it comes to how heaven exhibits love for us. Revelation chapter 5, starting at verse 1. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?" And no man in heaven, nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. Verse 4, and I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said to me, "Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof." And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High sent forth into all the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. Revelation chapter 5, verses 1 through 7. So we're just going to spend a few minutes in our meditation on this Shabbat, relating this passage to the heavenly instruction to focus on love. We hear a lot these days about people who are having near-death experiences or experiencing going on the other side of the veil, if you will, into the spirit realm. And in many cases, the way that people describe or the Revelation chapter 5, verse 1. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?" And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said to me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the four beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High, sent forth into all the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat on the throne. I'm going to stop there. Most recently, there have been many people talking about near-death experiences or being able to get access to things that are going on in the other realms on the other side of the veil. So I want to talk a little bit about that as it relates to love that the Most High wants us to understand. The overwhelming majority of people who talk about seeing either the other side or having glimpses of heaven, when they give descriptions of what they see, what we just read here is hardly ever mentioned. Now, we know that the Apostle John had this vision of heaven because in the previous chapter, he was told from heaven to come up here so that you can see. And he went through this portal, and the Spirit showed him these things. And that's how we get to verse 1, where it says, I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. So what John saw was a throne in heaven and one sitting on that throne. In the previous chapter, it talks about what he looked like. Actually, it might be good to just quickly look at that. So again, Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, after this I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven, door being the same thing as a portal. And the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, Come up here, and I will show you things which must be hereafter. Immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne in sight, like unto an emerald. And then it goes on to say, to describe some of the other things that were happening in this vision. But the point that I'm looking at, and as it relates to love, is that what he saw was a vision of heaven. And in this vision of heaven, he saw that there was this book in the hand of he who sat on the throne that no one was capable of opening or loosing the seals. Well, as it says in verse 3, no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And so it caused him to weep because no one was found worthy to open and read that book or even to look on it. And so that's where the scriptures that we're going to be focusing on for this short meditation come in. He was told to not weep because the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, had prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals. And he saw that in the midst of the throne of the 4 beasts and the midst of the elders, a lamb stood as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High, sent forth into all the earth. So his vision is what we're going to talk about. But before we delve into this, almost all of the human accounts, other than John's, and I'm talking about in today's world, people describe when people are asked, so what did Jesus look like, or what did God look like? In nearly every case, the person says either they couldn't tell what he looked like, they couldn't describe what he looked like, or he looked like a human being with brown hair, in many cases blue eyes, and in some cases dark eyes. But in other words, what the human beings see when they see what's on the other side is they see a reflection of themselves. That's not what John saw. What John saw was not a reflection of man, but he saw a reflection of the will of the Most High on behalf of man. And so he describes this being as a lion. He describes him as the root of David. He describes him as a lamb that had been slain, and that lamb had 7 horns and 7 eyes. So if you were to have asked John what he understood about Jesus, now John had been with Jesus for 3 years. He knew what Jesus looked like, but what he saw of him in heaven was a lamb that had been slain, and the lamb had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which the scriptures say is the 7 spirits of the Most High. So in other words, what he saw was the function that Yeshuah served on behalf of man in the heavenly realm. So see, he came in our stead, but he came as a lamb, and that lamb had to be slain. That's what John saw. He saw his purpose, and that is what resides in heaven. So we, in the blessing of the Father, are being challenged to see Yeshuah in his purpose. So all of these conversations about what did Jesus look like? Did he have blonde hair? Did he have black hair? Is his hair woolly? All of those physical features of a human being and a human personality can't save us. What saves us is what this is talking about. A lamb being slain, and the fullness of that lamb, which, because it says 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High sent forth into all the earth. So his purpose is to bring those from the various corners of the world into a right relationship with the Most High. And that takes sacrifice. It took sacrifice on his part, and we're being encouraged to sacrifice ourselves in a similar way. Now, we don't have to, as the scriptures say, we have not resisted unto blood. We're not expected to do that. Yeshua did that for us already. But that was his job. So we need to start looking at him in terms of the job that he did, rather than making him into an image that we feel comfortable with. They saw a lamb that had been slain. And it was that lamb that had been slain that went up to he who sat on the throne and took that book from him and began to open the seals. The reason why he was able to open the seals is because, based on his sacrifice, he took upon himself what was meant for us. And because he had no sin, he was resurrected. And it was in that resurrection that he was able to be worthy enough to take the word of the Most High, which was the book or a scroll, and the seven seals of that scroll. Okay. So he was the only one worthy to do that because he had overcome death itself. And for that reason, in that function, John describes him as a lamb having been slain for everyone in all parts of the earth. Okay, so that's why he was able to take that book, and as it says in verse 9, you're worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, because you were slain and have redeemed us by your blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. That's what love looks like. That's where love starts. Love starts it sacrificially. He poured out himself totally for people who were full of sin. That would be us. He's not expecting us to do what he did, but he is expecting us to use his example so that we can understand this idea of love. Love has to do with pouring yourself out for other people. And that's why the Most High wants us as his people focusing on love right now. So it starts with the scene in heaven, because the scriptures also say that the lamb was slain from the foundation of the world. So what John saw had already happened before the world was ever completed. The lamb had already been slain. And so then what he saw was the fullness of, or the ramifications of the fullness of that. And the ramification is we get saved from death. We get bought back. That's what that word redeemed means. We get bought back because of his blood. And so it doesn't matter where we are. That's why it says out of every kindred, of every tongue and people and nation. That's what he did for us. That's love. So our job, to the best of our ability, is to move our souls with that as the foundation, not as an afterthought. And when we do that, it doesn't matter to us what Jesus looked like when he was walking the earth, because we don't know him after the flesh at this point. John didn't know Jesus after the flesh. He didn't know Yeshuah after the flesh. He knew him after the spirit, and the spirit knew him based on his function, which was to be the lamb that was slain for the sins of the people. So in the blessings of the Father, that's our word of encouragement. It's in Revelation chapter 5, and it's where the scriptures describe a scene in heaven from heaven's perspective. That's why John was told, come up here so that you can see things the way heaven sees them. We know how we see things because we are earthy and we perceive everything from the earth. But the things that affect us, that bring salvation to us, although they happened on the earth, they began in heaven. So it's better for us to see the vision of from heaven's perspective so that we can understand the gravity of what our Savior did for us. So we'll stop there. Father, bless you and keep you. Father, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Father, lift up his countenance upon you